to talk about any nuances of the fight, any of the fights, any of the two fights. The Tony Bellew, David Hay fight was the second fight. The first fight, Tony Bellew, David Hay suffered an Achilles injury. He was unable to continue as far as being competitive in the fight. I think he got hurt round 6 or something. He pulled his hamstring, but I think he was up on the scorecards at that point, and then from that point on, he was unable to compete as far as keeping Tony Bellew off of him or being able to. David Hay did call out. I mean, not David Hay. Tony Bellew called out Andre Ward. It was a good fight between him and like I said before I got cut off. My stream cut off. But it was a good fight between him and David Hay for the longest it lasted. I thought David Hay came out and run the first 2 rounds with his jab, but I thought more so Tony Bellew was trying to see what he had, and Tony Bellew and him and David Hay was exchanging punches in the second round, about the end of the second round or the third round, one of those rounds, and yeah, third round I believe, yeah, third round because I gave David Hay the first 2 rounds. He caught David Hay, in between punches, dropped him. Second round, he finished him with a hook, and good night Irene. But I think David Hay should retire. First of all, David Hay had a good career, cruiserweight champion, I believe undisputed, and he had a piece of the heavyweight title. He fought Klitschko, Vladimir Klitschko back in the day, and he lost that fight. It was a subpar performance. He was going around in a press conference talking about how he wanted to cut off both of the brothers' heads, talking a big game, and just didn't show up in the ring. He lost a lot of credibility. That's when David Hay started going downhill. But before then, David Hay was talked about. People talking about how how good and a great fighter David Hay was. He earned it, but that fight right there really killed him. He talked about his toe after the fight, took off his shoe. Everybody know, but I thought Tony Bellew had a great game plan to see what David Hay had. I thought David Hay started to throw caution to the wind in round 3. I believe Tony Bellew had hurt him before he knocked him down, but like I said, Tony Bellew showed patience. Now, where do Tony Bellew, go from here? I don't know. He called out Andre Ward, so maybe him and Andre Ward get it on. But I don't think Andre Ward gonna come out of retirement for Tony Bellew. I mean, I could be wrong, but unless it's a boatload of money, I don't see Andre Ward coming out of retirement. And can he beat Tony Bellew? Tony Bellew is a big dude. He has a decent punch. He's not the quickest dude, but he's not the slowest dude either. And he's a full 6'3". They got him and David Hay was listed at 6'3", but he was at least an inch taller than David Hay. So maybe David Hay is not listed. Is not really 6'3". But Andre Ward is about what, 6 feet, 6'1", and he had trouble with Colt with what's my guy name? He had trouble with that fight, with that with the height of the Crusher in the first fight. In the second fight, he made adjustments, went to the body, stopped him to the body, hurt him. But the first fight, he got dropped, and I don't know. I think Tony Bellew may hit harder, than the Crusher. So, but I think overall that Ward, not think I know Ward is a better fighter overall, as far as what he brings. But will he fight Tony Bellew? I don't think I don't think the money is there for him to fight Tony Bellew. I mean, unless they come up with like $10 million or something like that, then Andre Ward will have to take a serious look at it and say, okay, well, I'll fight him. But I think Andre Ward, he was talking about going to heavyweight. He was talking about fighting Joshua. Andre Ward was talking about fighting Joshua. You know, what, last year he was talking about he can bulk up and fight Joshua. But I don't recommend him to fight Joshua. Can he beat Tony Bellew? He could probably beat Tony Bellew. Can he beat some of them cruiserweights? I don't know. But I just think once you retire like that, and Andre Ward suffered some knee injuries. He had operations on the same knee a couple times. Maybe he should just stay out the game. You know what I'm saying? His body just wasn't able to hold up for him. He had a short considered a short career. But can Tony Bellew fight Parker? I would like to see Tony Bellew versus Parker. I think that'd be a good matchup because I don't think Parker is as big as Joshua and Ortiz and Wilder, or those super heavyweight classes. I'm not gonna say he's a normal size heavyweight of what heavyweights. Well, today he's a normal size heavyweight, but he's on. I think Parker is what 6'3", 225, maybe 230, maybe. But Tony Bellew he looked round around the gut, man. I don't know if he should go up to heavyweight and fight any of those guys because he looked like his gut was like big. I mean, this fight was a heavyweight, but I'm saying like it's like his gut was like, I don't know. Maybe he should go down to cruiserweight because he didn't look in shape. He didn't look like when he fought at cruiserweight. He didn't look in that type of shape. So maybe he shouldn't fight a heavyweight. But I'm saying if he gonna fight any fighter, I think he should fight. I think he'll fight. I think he'll match up versus Parker, but I still would give Parker the edge in that fight. But Golovkin also had a fight with Van Rosen, stopped him, knocked him out, and it was self-explanatory. It wasn't a whole lot going on in that. But I don't begrudge Golovkin for fighting Van Rosen. He did you can't go he couldn't come at the training camp, training for Canelo, and then all of a sudden say I'm gonna fight Demetrius Andrade, who really wanted to fight, or I'm gonna fight one of the Charlos, or I'm gonna fight Danny Jacobs, because those guys are talented fighters at the end of the day. Golovkin is good, but those guys are talented. You don't want to come out a training camp, half of a training camp, or whatever, how long they was in training camp, training for Canelo, then all of a sudden got to switch midway and then switch to one of those guys. He got to have a full training camp of thinking about Demetrius Andrade. If he's gonna fight him, he has to have a full training camp of thinking about fighting Jacobs. If he's gonna fight him, he got to have a full training camp thinking about fighting the Charlo. If he's gonna fight him, he just can't come out halfway through a training camp, then switch everything and then fight one of those guys, because those guys are talented and those guys can beat him if he's mentally not on his game. You know what I'm saying? They already a threat to him, and then now you're not really ready for them. Now now that this fight is over, he can, to me, choose one of those guys. Now, he said at his press conference he had no problem fighting Charlo. I would love to see that fight. I would love to see that fight next, or Danny Jacobs rematch, or fight Demetrius Andrade. And to me, those are really three really good fights. Say for instance, if he fight Danny Jacobs in a rematch, he beat Danny Jacobs. I just think he should just keep going and fight those three. And look, go out fighting those three. If he can win all three of those fights, I think people will stop, saying that he hasn't fought anybody, that he has no meat on the bones as far as his resume. His resume is decent. It's not the greatest middleweight resume of all times, you know what I'm saying? But it's decent. He has what a lot of middleweights got on their record. He has the welterweight. He has Kell Brook. I know Kell Brook wasn't considered the best welterweight at that time because the welterweight division was unclear who was the best. Everybody had their opinions of who they thought was the best. I thought Keith Thurman was the best. Some people thought Sean Porter was the best. Some people thought Danny Garcia was the best, his supporters. And some people thought Earl Spence was the best. You know what I'm saying? Some people thought Kell Brook was the best in the UK. But he did fight his welterweight like your boy Hopkins fought his heavy. He fought his welterweight, his two welterweights, and Tito Trinidad came up to middleweight and fought, and he fought De La Hoya. He ended up knocking both of those guys out. You had Hagler, who fought his welterweights that moved up. Leonard and Hearns, and I believe Hagler fought Benitez. I'm not sure, and he fought he fought his welterweights that moved up. You have other guys that fought their welterweights that moved up. And so is Golovkin resume better than those guys? No, in my opinion, he's a couple opponents off. He did fight Canelo, but he didn't get the win. He got the draw. He fought Danny Jacobs. He got the win. He fought, like I said, he fought Kell Brook. He got the win. Then he got some other guys like Stevenson. He got some other guys up in there that he beat. and decent wins. But he stopped. Like one thing I can say about Golovkin, he stopped a lot of guys. So he may not have a lot of names, but he has some good performances as far as going in there and stopping guys like Willie Monroe Jr. and all those guys, Barker and all those, the guys from the UK, and he did his thing. And I like Golovkin, but now I would love to see him fight, like I said, Charlo or Demetrius Andrade or Danny Jacobs Part Two, or I don't know, it's some other guys. I mean, I don't want to see him fight Laura now because Laura got beat. You know what I'm saying? So, and that would have been a good fight a year ago or 2 years ago, but that fight has jumped the train. But it's some fights out there for Golovkin. It's some nice, intriguing fights. Is he gonna wait on Canelo? He probably is gonna probably wait on Canelo and see what happens because that's his big money fight. I think that's a $20 million fight for him. I can't begrudge the man that want to make that wants to make his money. He's been in the fight game for a long time. He wants to make money and make profit off his blood, sweat, and tears that he put into the game. I have no qualms with that, but I don't want him to have his whole focus on Canelo, 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 and then that stuff don't happen. But like I said, I would like to see Tony Bellew fight Parker if he's gonna stay at heavyweight, or I don't know, see if they can get Ward to come out of retirement, but they would have to have a lot of money to get Ward out of retirement. I truly think Ward is done unless something, like I said, unless a boatload of money coming that he can't refuse. I think he's done. David Hay, he needs to go promote, because I said in my breakdown of the David Hay in a Bellew fight, I have to go with Bellew because David Hay, for one, he coming off that injury. For two, he has his mind halfway in promoting and halfway being a fighter. You can't do that. And coming off a major injury like that, and 35 years old, so 35, 36 years old, whatever he is, he's in his mid 30s. It's just too much of a hurdle to overcome. And he had some inactivity, a lot of inactivity in his career with the injuries, supposed to fight Fury, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. Called that fight off a couple times. So David Hay had a great career. He said he's going to assess and look at the tape and see if he's going to continue. But I can say this, and I've seen a lot of fighters in their career. Once you start losing and losing in the fashion that he lost in, the next thing is to getting really hurt. That's the next thing. The next thing is David Hay gonna end up getting really, really hurt. He should go ahead and retire. It may be hard to lose like this, to go out on. I mean, unless he gonna go out and fight some fringe contender from the UK or some fringe fighter just to get a win, so he won't go out on the loss. But he should not be fighting nobody that's a threat. Get a win, go out a winner, and you know what I'm saying, and walk off into the sunset. But let me know what y'all think, man. Subscribe to the channel. I like having good conversation, people having good thought out opinions and things of that nature. We can talk, we can go live, have debates. But let me know what y'all think. I'm out.